What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the From the Booth podcast. Today is Monday, so you know what that means. We got a mock draft Monday for you guys today. We also have Derek Carr signing with the Saints in some breaking news today. Saw that as soon as I woke up this morning on my phone. Woke up at the early hour of 10:30 a.m. Checked my tweets, saw Ian Rappaport tweeted, "Babe, wake up." New Ian Rappaport tweet. Derek Carr is going to the Saints. The deal, which was just posted, the monetary value just a few minutes ago, is a 4-year, $150 million deal with $100 million in guarantees. So we'll kind of get into that, what it means for Derek Carr, what it means for the Saints as well. We're going to talk a little bit of NFL Combine. But before we do any of that, I want to mention two things. A, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. The channel has been growing like crazy on YouTube, so I really appreciate that. And if you guys are enjoying the videos and wanting to see future videos, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to click the bell as well. And thing number two, talking like I'm in a Dr. Seuss book, thing number two is I actually want to tell a story about my combine experience. So when I was 17 years old, I played high school football, as many of you know. I was invited to a Boom combine event. Now, you might be wondering what Boom is. Boom is a Illinois-based 7-on-7 travel team. So they travel around doing 7-on-7s. They had an event. I actually went to two of their tryouts, and then I had the combine event, like I'm going to talk about right now. And in this event, we did everything that the NFL Combine does. We ran the 40. We did our vertical jump. We did our three-cone drill. I can't remember if we did broad jump or not. I don't know. Maybe I didn't do broad jump, but definitely the first three for sure. And you know, the burning question, I think, ever since I've started this YouTube channel is what would be my 40-yard dash time. Well, today I'm not sure, but back then, you know, I was in track. I was playing football, so I was in my. I would say I would be in my speed peak. I'm a lot stronger than I used to be, but I would say I was definitely in my speed peak, speed prime back then is probably a better way to phrase that. So what did I run? I ran, drum roll please, a 4.68 as a quarterback. Now for context, the greatest defensive player of our time, Aaron Donald, ran a 4.68. So did Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert and Aaron Donald ran 4.68. I did as well. And you know, you might be wondering, well, did this launch me to a long, illustrious collegiate career? Did it spring me up all the way automatically and be the first player out of high school drafted into the NFL? And the answer is no. Unfortunately, this is a little tiny thing. You guys have probably never heard of it. It's called coronavirus. Happened, and it shut down the Boom. It shut down the Boom. It shut down Boom, the travel team. It shut down any future events that I was able to go to, and it also shut down my high school track career. So that sucked. I went from, you know, running a 4.68, running Justin Herbert time, to then being on my couch and on my ass for about 2 years. So not very fun, but all joking aside, we are going to get into the episode for you guys today and kind of see what we're cooking with. And yeah, so we're going to talk about the mock draft. We're going to talk about Derek Carr. I'm going to talk about the combine a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there, guys. But hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. Moving on to Derek Carr signing with the New Orleans Saints. I'm just going to be frank. I don't like this move for either side. I think that it is a head scratcher. You know, look at the Saints for a second, right? Do you think the Saints are going to be a competitive team in 2023? The answer is no. They're in cap hell. Their roster is getting much older. Their their resources are depleting. They are supposed to have a top 10 pick, but they don't because of the trade they made with Philly. So they don't even have the assets to bolster up their team once again. So it's kind of a bad situation. I don't like their head coach. Their GM is meh. Literally just getting a tweet now from Ian Rappaport that the deal for Derek Carr is 4 years, $150 million with $100 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to give a guy who really has never been a top 10 quarterback, never close to a top 5. So I just don't know. I don't know what the Saints think they are. I think it would have been better if they just fully bought into the tank, understood that they're going to suck for a few years, but accumulate enough assets to be a contender moving forward, right? Which is what the Bears did. It's what the Lions have been doing. A lot of teams like that. So I have no idea what they're doing. And then, if you're Derek Carr, um, obviously, the money looked pretty good there. Maybe the Saints gave him more money than anybody else, but why would you go to the Saints? Your weapons are not good, Michael Thomas is probably not coming back to the Saints. Alvin Kamara might be going to prison. Your offensive line is getting older. They just lost Taron Armstead last year. Again, who's the offensive coordinator? Who's the head coach? To me, this is just a bad move. I don't understand it from Derek Carr's perspective. I don't understand it from the Saints' perspective. The only way I get it from the Saints' perspective is, all right, these guys are trying to save their jobs, so you have to have somebody play quarterback, right? And maybe they think Derek Carr can get them over the edge. And the only other saving grace here is that the division is pretty bad. So maybe they think, okay, we can win the division. All right, cool, you're going to win the division. What the fuck's going to happen in the wild card round? You think you're going to win a playoff game? No. God forbid you do win a playoff game. You think you're winning 2, 3, 4? No. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Saints had to do something. They couldn't roll another year with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. But to me, you just gotta kind of tear it down, and then be prepared to be really good in 3, 4 years. Um, I think the number one problem with rebuilding teams in the NFL is that they refuse to rebuild, and they're just stuck in mediocrity. And I feel like the Saints are going to be stuck in mediocrity for a while now. Um, I think the best thing a team can do is just understand, hey, we are not good. Our roster is not built well. Let's tear it down, and then let's go and just tank for a few years. Maybe not tank, but let's plan for the future. Because no team is going to tank on purpose necessarily, but let's plan for the future. Let's accumulate assets. Let's start looking at next year's draft class, um, type of thing. So, bad move for the Saints. I mean, Derek Carr, got your bag. Good for you, bro. But I don't know what this does necessarily for his career. I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to what is, in my opinion, the biggest flaw of his career is not win a playoff game or go substantially far in the season. I don't think he's going to have that opportunity in New Orleans. So that's a sad fact for him. But he got his money. The Saints at least now have somebody at quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Derek Carr is a significant upgrade from Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm just saying he's not someone to be excited about, right? He's not somebody that's gonna vault the franchise into a new era. Every year with Derek Carr, you're gonna go somewhere in between 6-11 and like 9-8, and they're gonna be stuck in that middle ground for a while now. And even if they surprise people and go like 10-7, they're not gonna win a playoff game. They're just not talented enough. So, Saints fans, I'm sorry, you're gonna be stuck in mediocrity for a few more seasons. Derek Carr got his money, good for him, but I don't know what this means for the Saints. So I don't like the move for the Saints, but what are you going to do? I guess they were desperate and they're trying to save their jobs. But let me know what you guys think down below about Derek Carr going to the Saints, and how this kind of changes the quarterback market. I plan on making a video Wednesday about how this changes the quarterback market and everything like that, shaking up everything. So we'll get into that later, but until then, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, today is Monday, and you guys know what that means. It is time for another edition of Mock Draft Monday. I appreciate all the support on the last 2 mock drafts. You guys have really been killing it. So let's go ahead and get into the mock draft. You guys know the rules. I control every team that has a pick, and I control just round 1. I think as we get closer to the draft, I am going to start doing multiple round mock drafts because I think there's a lot of good players that aren't going to be picked in the first round, obviously. So I do want to get the chance to talk about them. But here we go. All right. So a few changes to this mock draft just off the dome that we learned from last time. A, obviously, the Saints at 29 are no longer going to be picking Tanner McKee, probably because Derek Carr just signed a 4-year contract. Okay. B, the Bears came out and said that they're going to stick with Justin Fields and that they are going to try to trade the first overall pick. So we need to see kind of where the Bears are going to trade. That's one point we're going to reference. Another thing is, how high does the stock go for Anthony Richardson? Anthony Richardson had a great combine performance. Definitely was one of the winners. I'll get into a lot of the winners and losers of the combine on Wednesday's episode, but I think it's undeniable that Anthony Richardson really improved his draft stock with his combine performance. So where does that land him? We're going to answer all of those questions and more. But before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what you think of my mock draft when I'm done. So make sure to watch all the way through so you can see the entire mock draft, see what I pick for every team, and then you can give me your thoughts and opinions down below. All right, so starting with the Bears, we got to figure out somebody to trade them with, right? I think one good possibility that the Bears could do is they're going to trade with a team within the top 5 so that they can still land themselves a really, really good player. And I think with all of the quarterbacks playing well, I think the lure of the number 1 overall pick, the value is, excuse me, not the lure, the value of the number 1 overall pick increases exponentially. So, which teams are desperate for a quarterback? The Texans are desperate. The Colts are desperate. The Raiders are desperate. The Falcons. But we're going to focus on this top 5, right? The Seahawks aren't desperate for a quarterback. The Colts and the Texans are. So I'm going to go ahead and make a trade with Houston. I'm going to give the Houston Texans the 1st overall pick in exchange for, obviously, the 2nd overall pick. I'm going to also take pick 12 from Houston. And I'm going to throw in a 2nd round pick next year. So just for context, to move up a pick, the Houston Texans are giving up a 2 firsts, essentially, and pick 12, a 2nd round pick next year. Now, you might be saying, oh, this is a lot of value. But the Bears have initiated a bidding war with teams. Teams know that the Bears are going to trade the 1st overall pick, and they know that, hey, we want to go get Bryce Young. So if the Texans want to start off their franchise, I mean, they have this extra 1st from the Deshaun Watson trade. So why not take one of your 1sts from your old quarterback and get it to go get your new quarterback? So the Texans are going to trade 2, 12, and a 2nd next year for pick 1 for the Bears. We're going to go ahead and make that trade. Now I think it's okay to start the mock draft. And with that, the Texans are going to go ahead and take Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. Pretty obvious if a team trades up to number 1, they're going to take Bryce Young. I think that's pretty locked in stone. Next, the Bears are going to take the best defensive player, in my opinion, in this draft class, and they are going to go with Will Anderson Jr. Next, I think with the Cardinals at 3, it's a bit of a tricky spot because we have to see what goes on with Jalen Carter's legal situation. But if he's acquitted of everything and nothing gets too severe, then I think the Cardinals will go ahead and take Jalen Carter, like I've been saying. I think Jonathan Gannon wants to rebuild that defensive line. J.J. Watt retired, a lot of those guys. So I think defensive tackle is a big need for the Arizona Cardinals. For the Colts, they're going to take a quarterback. I think Jim Irsay really likes the tools and the attributes of Will Levis. And I think that, he sees Will Levis as being capable of leading the Colts into a new era. I'm going to go ahead and take Will Levis for the Colts at number 4. Now the Seahawks. Okay, I didn't mean to zoom in there. Oops. Got a little excited talking about my Seahawks. Here's the thing with Seattle. I have no fucking clue what they're going to do at 5. And that is exactly how they want it to be. What I do know is that the Seahawks have a thing for uber-talented quarterbacks because the report came out that they love Patrick Mahomes in 2017. They love Josh Allen in 2018. And another thing I know is they were at the Combine and they saw everything that Anthony Richardson did. And they loved it. Now, if you're John Schneider and you're Pete Carroll, do you need a quarterback at 5? No. Could you address defensive line? Could you go Tyree Wilson? Could you go, Devin Witherspoon at corner? Yes. Those would probably be more immediate needs. However, if you want a guy who can be your franchise for the next 10 to 15 years, who if you can coach him up and you can get the most out of him, if you could, bear his fruit. That sounds really weird. Let me run that back. If you could get the most out of Anthony Richardson, you're looking at a guy who could be an MVP caliber player for years to come. I think the Seahawks have a lot of confidence in offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. And there's been a lot of reports that the Seahawks have met with Anthony Richardson on numerous occasions. Anthony Richardson actually talked about the Seahawks and how he really got along well with Pete Carroll. So I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Richardson for the Seahawks at 5. Call me crazy, I know, but I can see a world where this happens. I can see a world where Anthony Richardson goes to the Seahawks at number 5. All right, coming in at number 6 for the Lions, I think that the Lions really want defense in this draft, and they really like a lot of the prospects in defense. I've had Devin Witherspoon, however you say it, going 6th to them a lot. But I think if you're going to spend a premium top 6 draft pick, taking a corner is pretty risky. And, obviously Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley went last year. But I say the Lions take the more safe pick, quote unquote, and go Tyree Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. That leaves the Vegas Raiders, who are out of a quarterback as we currently speak. And I think a guy who, could be really pro ready right off the gate, doesn't have the physical tools of probably the other two guys, the last two guys I picked, but nonetheless would be, I think, a really, really good quarterback in this league, would be CJ Stroud. Now, before I do this pick, I'm gonna take CJ Stroud real quick for the Raiders. But before I do this pick, don't be surprised if a team like the Panthers try to trade up with either the Lions or the Seahawks, or if a team, like the Falcons, try to trade up because, at 9, you kind of don't put yourself in a great position to take one of these quarterbacks. So we'll see. But at 7, the Raiders are going to take C.J. Stroud. At number 8, the Falcons, who also need a quarterback, but unfortunately all the quarterbacks are taken already. So the Falcons probably going to want to trade back. But if they stick here at 8, they do need quarterback, wide receiver, edge, and linebacker. I think if they're at 8, they might take Quentin Johnson to pair with Drake London. The last time they took a receiver in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, it was our guy Julio Jones. So they have a pretty good track record with it. Not saying that Quentin Johnson is going to turn into Julio Jones, but I feel like they have a good ability to draft receivers. The Panthers over at number 9. You could take Witherspoon to pair with J.C. Horn, although I think that's probably not something you do. I think if you're the Panthers, you probably want receiver to pair with DJ Moore, although it's not the biggest need in the world. But it says that they need quarterback, running back, tight end, and edge. Okay, so let's look at the best tackle. We have tackle right here. We have defensive line right here in Kalijah Kancey. But in terms of edge and tight end, there's not really a guy there until Lucas Van Ness, number 15. So I'm going to go ahead and take Lucas Van Ness to the Panthers, improve that defense, pair him with Brian Burns, and get them boys cooking for Frank Reich. For the Eagles, here at number 10, don't need a lot of positions, receiver, guard, center. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba could be a good pickup here, although I think that maybe he's not worthy of a top 10 pick. I think I've liked Bijan Robinson, but you guys seem to hate me taking Bijan Robinson here at 10, although this is the luxury of all luxury picks. But if I'm being safe, I would say Witherspoon is a really good corner. Their corners are getting a little bit older there in Philadelphia, so maybe secure it for the future. He can get minutes right away, or you can get playing time reps right away. This is not the NBA. For the Titans, receiver, tackle, and edge. Like I said, with the releasing of Taylor Lewan, I feel like they're going to go tackle here. They're going to take the guy from Northwestern. For the Bears, back at the Bears, pick number 12. This is a spot where I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba could go. A, pairing him back with Justin Fields. B, getting the Bears a legitimate receiver. The Bears don't have one at this point. They have Darnell Mooney, who is probably a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and then Chase Claypool. No comments on Chase Claypool. Really, really quick, I just want to rant about Chase Claypool for a second there. So, I actually had one of the best parlays of my life ruined by Chase Claypool. So it was the Bears and Dolphins game, and I had like a plus 7,000 parlay, right? Every single leg hit, except for Chase Claypool over 15 yards. This motherfucker got 9 yards and dropped like 2 passes. I was besides myself. I was so upset. I will never be a fan of Chase Claypool. He lost me so much money that day. I can't do it. But like I said, the Bears going to go ahead and take Jackson Smith-Njigba for the New York Jets. Assuming they don't land a quarterback, they will need a quarterback, a tackle, and a linebacker. Okay, so I think the best place to go here would be Paris Johnson. Get you a tackle in the top 13 to pair with hopefully your new quarterback. But who knows? The Patriots, quarterback, tackle, edge. Not a lot of good tackles and edges left. I could see Nolan Smith really jumping high on a lot of people's boards given his combine performance. And I think Bill Belichick will love his physicality and his physical tools. So I think Nolan Smith is a good option for the Patriots at number 14. Now the Packers, receiver, tight end, edge, linebacker. Best tight end available, the guy from Utah. I like Michael Mayer, I think, a little bit more, but he seems to be the consensus tight end one. If you want to make Jordan Love happy, get his guy from Utah. Actually, I just thought of that. So, did Jordan? No, no. Jordan Love went to Utah State. Never mind. Forget what I said. Forget me trying to be funny. Anyways, on to Washington. We've got Christian Gonzalez, the corner, coming in at number 16. And then I think for the Steelers, um, you could go Brian Branch here. I think that could be a good option. But I think it's just too perfect to need corner, have Joey Porter right here, the son of Steelers legend Joey Porter, um, and not take him. I didn't mean to do that. Excuse me. Oh, I'm doing it again. What is going on with me? All right, Joey Porter to the Steelers for the second time. Um, then for the Lions, you already went defensive line. You already went edge with Tyree Wilson. I say why not go with Kalijah Cansey? Um, Although I think that they've devoted a lot of resources to defensive line, so I think maybe you want to go corner here. Maybe you go Deontay Banks, the corner from Maryland. I like Kalijah Cansey a lot, but I think corner is a bit more of a pressing need for Detroit. So I'm going to go there. For the Buccaneers at number 19, um, they kind of need everything, unfortunately. Um, but I'm going to go with Brian Brisset for the Buccaneers, kind of shoring up their defensive line. For the Seahawks, number 20 overall, got your quarterback. Now you need some defensive linemen. Um, I would be shocked if they took the Jamal Adams clone and Brian Branch. So I think the options here are clearly either Kalijah Cansey or Miles Murphy. I like Miles Murphy a lot, but I think it's too good of a value to not take Kalijah Cansey at number 20 overall. The Dolphins, never mind. The Chargers are going to go ahead and take Zay Flowers. It's my favorite pick. It's the pick that I think makes the most sense. They need receivers that can separate and are fast. Zay Flowers is that guy. He's going to go there. Now for the Ravens, they need receiver, edge, and corner. And I think Miles Murphy value at 22 is pretty good. They're going to go with Miles Murphy to pair with, Adafe Owe. And I think Calais Campbell's still kicking it over there as well. The Vikings defensive line, linebackers, and corners. Let's look at the best defensive lineman available. Will McDonald at 29 is good of a reach. Linebackers, none. Corners, none. So I would not be surprised if the Vikings went with Brian Branch here. Really good value. They need safety help. So I'm going to go with Brian Branch for the Vikings. Get a good little steal there. The Jaguars need guard, center, and defensive back. All right, let's go down to where is Osiris-Saurus? Oh, he bumped down a lot in their mock draft. Okay, so let's go ahead and filter in by interior offensive line. Osiris Torrance is the best interior offensive lineman. I think that's what they need desperately. So I'm going to go ahead and take Osiris Torrance for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a sexy pick, but it's a pick that they need, so it'll do. The Giants need receiver. They're going to go with Jordan Addison, who a lot of people see as the wide receiver one of this class. Regardless if they sign Daniel Jones or not, they need weapons, and they don't have them right now. So that's what they're going to do. The Dallas Cowboys receiver, defensive lineman, and linebacker. Oof. I think Will McDonald here at 26 makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if they need edge so much they need defensive line. So we're going to go ahead and go with, you could go Mozzie Smith. Man, this is a tough spot for the Cowboys. Receiver, wide receiver. Josh Downs. I mean, you can go Josh Downs. I kind of like Josh Downs. I would pair him with CeeDee Lamb. I'd go with him. For the Buffalo Bills, guard, center, DB. Now, the Bills are tempted, ladies and gentlemen. They see Bijan Robinson here at 27. They're at pick 27. They're tempted. I promise you. They need a running game. And if Bijan Robinson falls this far, I think the Bills think two things. A, they want to compete with the top dogs like the Bengals and like the Chiefs. They need a running game. A. B, they need to take some pressure off of their superstar quarterback, Josh Allen. Well, Bijan Robinson fits both of those needs very well. So I think that he is going to be the pick for them here. For the Bengals, They need a tackle. Anton Harrison is, in my opinion, the tackle one of this draft. They're going to be good to go there. The Saints, quarterback, defensive line, corner. We can take away quarterback because they just got Derek Carr. D-line and corner. All right. Let's see who we got in terms of corners and defensive line. We'll add D lineman, edge. We'll add D lineman. We'll add edge, and we'll add corners. Who's the best? Will McDonald, 29-29. That makes sense. Okay, we're gonna go Will McDonald out of Iowa State. The Philadelphia Eagles again need receivers, guards, and centers. Um, Man, this is. I think Broderick Jones is a good pick here, but they don't really need a tackle. Michael Myers is a good pick. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they'd go with. Maybe. Let's go with interior offensive lineman. Steve Avila. Yeah, you can go with Steve Avila. That makes some sense at 30. And then pick 31 for the Chiefs receiver and defensive line as well. We could go. Let's go with receivers. Let's see receivers really quick for a second here. Receivers: Nathaniel Dell. Not my biggest fan. I really like Michael Wilson, but not in the first round. Let's just get best player available. I think maybe Broderick Jones to shore up the offensive tackle spot on the right tackle. I don't mind that. Maybe even if Orlando Brown losing free agency, I think that can make a decent amount of sense. So this is my mock draft for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let's wait for it to pull up. PFF trying to hate on me. Let's wait for it to pull up. Okay, right. This is my mock draft down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any changes, if I made any stupid picks, let me know. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace out. All right, so for this next segment of the podcast, I kind of want to take 10 NFL draft prospects and equate them a NFL player. Okay, so for this next segment of the podcast, what I want to do is I want to take 10 NFL prospects coming into the 2023 draft and equate them an NFL player comparison, equivalent, whatever you want to say. This is a pretty common tactic. I think everybody kind of has their player comps for each player, but I like mine a lot, and I feel like mine, at least in my head, makes sense. I think some of these are pretty standard that you'll see a lot of people comparing them to, but I think some of them are pretty unique. So let me know what you guys think of my list down below. I want to hear what your comps are for certain players, either players that I mentioned or players that I haven't mentioned if you guys have a really good comp for. But kicking off the list, I want to start with Bryce Young, who I've made it no secret is my favorite quarterback in this draft class. Bryce Young's player comp to me is Deshaun Watson. You look at their physical attributes, and they're maybe not as similar, but I'm talking about the style of which they play. They both play extremely fluid. They both play with great pocket awareness. I'm talking about Deshaun Watson back in Houston before, the allegations and the Browns and the big contract and everything. Back to peak Deshaun Watson. Played with a lot of fluidity, great pocket movement, very loose hips, ability to extend plays. I would say that both of them are capable runners. However, they don't choose to run often. They're pass. They're not, looking one read and running. They remind me very much of the way they play, the arm angles they throw at. I think a lot of the strengths of Deshaun Watson are strengths of Bryce Young. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's bigger. He's taller. He probably weighs a little bit more. But Bryce Young, to me, his play style is very reminiscent of Deshaun Watson. Now we're going on to Jalen Carter, the former consensus #1 player in this draft before his legal matters. I think Jalen Carter equates to Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans. Jeffrey Simmons, to me, is one of the best defensive tackles in this game. He is one of, if not the best, behind Aaron Donald, pass rushing defensive tackles, in my opinion. Also plays great against the run. You can stick him up the middle, and the middle of your defense is fine. He is insanely good against the run. So Jalen Carter, to me, is very reminiscent of Jeffrey Simmons. Will Anderson, the best edge rusher in this draft class, to me, reminds me a lot of Von Miller. Von Miller and Will Anderson are big guys, big athletic guys, long arms. They have a long list of pass rush moves they use. Very productive in college, both of them were. And Von Miller, very productive in the pros. I see the same for Will Anderson being very, very productive. So I would equate Will Anderson to Von Miller. Will Levis. I think Jay Cutler is the best pro comparison for Will Levis, a guy with all the arm talent in the world, probably some accuracy issues. In the case of Cutler, definitely some maturity issues. But if Will Levis, there was a time where Jay Cutler was a really good quarterback. Now, that time was not a long time, and it didn't last for a long time, but there was a time where Jay Cutler was a good quarterback. And Will Levis, if he can truly reach his full potential, I think can be what Cutler was in his peak. Um, but, Will Levis will have to see what the accuracy, but the arm talent is there. I mean, he can launch the ball a mile. The arm talent is 100% there. I like Will Levis and Jay Cutler as a pairing right there. Another quarterback, we're going to talk about C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud's pro comparison, in my opinion, is Dak Prescott. Two guys who I think are very mature, very well put together, very stable. You're not going to have any issues with them, going and getting in trouble or doing anything like that. And to me, they're both good athletes, not great, good athletes, who are very accurate. They have great ball placement. They can put the ball where it needs to be. But Dak and C.J. Stroud are really not scrambling kind of guys. I mean, they can, again, pick up a first down here or there. They're athletic. But C.J. Stroud and Dak are guys that are mainly going to just stay in the pocket and deliver strikes. So I see a lot of comparisons between the two of them. Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama, reminds me a lot of Jamal Adams. And that is not the diss that some of you think it is. I'm a Seahawks fan. I love Jamal Adams. I think Brian Branch's game is very reminiscent of Jamal Adams. Safeties that are physical, that can play the run, that can cover, kind of do everything, almost like a Derwin James type. I'm not going to be comparing a rookie to the best safety in the league, though. But I think it's a little bit more physical, kind of like a Jamal Adams is. I could see Brian Branch getting some sacks in the NFL. So I'm going to compare him to Jamal Adams. Next, we have Anthony Richardson, the draft's most polarizing prospect, I would say. Anthony Richardson, his comparison is Cam Newton. I feel like that's fairly obvious. That's what a lot of people are saying. Big, strong, fast quarterbacks with cannons of an arm who at times struggle with passing. The accuracy, obviously, with Anthony Richardson, I think he only completed like 55% of his passes or something. Not a whole lot of passing touchdowns, but the potential and the reason that Cam Newton got drafted first overall, and the reason that Anthony Richardson is probably going to get drafted very high as well, is the potential. There is lots and lots of potential. I think Anthony Richardson has the highest ceiling of any prospect in this class, as Cam Newton did back in 2011. And listen, for Cam Newton, it worked. Cam Newton had a really good career for about 9 years, I'd say. He was really good for like 9 years. Won an MVP, took the Panthers to a Super Bowl. I would not call that a bust at all. I think Cam Newton was well worth the first overall pick. Maybe you could argue Von Miller, Julio. Cam Newton was good. And I think Anthony Richardson can see a lot of the same thing. They just need to get him in a good spot with some good coaching, and I feel like he could be more than adequate, and he can showcase his unique skill sets. Let's talk about the best running back in this draft class, Bijan Robinson. I feel like he best translates to Saquon Barkley. Athletic freaks. I think that, first of all, Bijan Robinson is the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. But they're both freak athletes who are super strong, super fast, super well built. Both ran good 40s. Both can probably bench press a whole bunch. Both really don't have much weaknesses in their game. If I had to point to one spot for both of them, it would probably be pass protection. But I mean, what running back really is a great pass protector? If we're being honest, both can run the ball. Both are good at contact balance. Both have breakaway speed. Both are competent pass catchers, which I think is a skill that sets them apart from, which will set Bijan Robinson apart, and which sets Saquon apart from the rest of the league. So there we go. Jackson Smith and Jigba, starting off with receiver. I like him to Cooper Kupp, guys who aren't fast. They don't have blazing speed, but they'll beat you with their route running. They'll beat you with their craftiness and their hands. That's what Cooper Kupp has made a career of. You're not seeing Cooper Kupp, beating the defense over the top for an 80-yard bomb. It's, out route, zig route, slant route, post route, It's all of those things. Timing, the footwork, everything. Same skills attributed to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Listen, guys, there's a reason he didn't run the 40-yard dash. All right, he knew that he probably wasn't going to score very high, and I don't blame him. But he did well in the three-cone drill as well. So a good route runner, good hands, not really have breakaway speed. I like JSN to Cooper Cup. And then my last comparison for today, I'm going to talk about another receiver. I'm going to talk about Jordan Addison. I think he's very similar to Tyler Lockett. They have this on the NFL.com website for his draft profile. I saw this a few weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it and actually really like it. Guys who are very crafty, like we said, are not the physical gift, are maybe not the most physically gifted, maybe like a Quentin Johnson is in this draft, but guys who are crafty, great footwork, great burst off of the ball. Tyler Lockett and Jordan Addison, they can run any route in the route tree. It really doesn't matter. So you're getting a great route runner with good hands, guy who has good burst, who's quick. So I think that Jordan Addison, it compares very well to Tyler Lockett. Let me know what you guys think of this list down below. If you guys have an issue with my list, let me know. Or if you guys have any other comparisons for either players I mentioned or players I didn't mention, make sure to comment it down below. I've been loving your guys' comments and all of your support. I really appreciate it, to be honest. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up, and then we will kind of end the episode. So the NFL Combine happened this week, obviously, and we had some winners and losers, and I'll make a video about that on Wednesday when everything's, officially wrapped up. Kind of make a video on that, but I just want to say I thought this year was a good year for the Combine. I thought we had a lot of guys really surprise and do some good things. And I think the Combine, some people say the Combine is boring to watch. I actually really like watching the Combine. I like watching these guys in the pre-draft process because, to me, the Combine does a lot to determine what teams these guys go to. So if a guy, if a guy's like a middle first rounder and he does great at the Combine, maybe he vaults himself to being a top 10 pick, stuff like that. So I think the Combine is very interesting. We don't really have a lot else going on. We're about to enter a dead period in the NFL, unfortunately, so it'll kind of be up in the air. It's kind of like we have a couple of months till the draft. We have about a month and a half, month and a half to the draft. So it's kind of, a little dead period here for a second, but I will be bringing you guys as much content as I possibly can. I love covering the NFL. I love covering everything that happens. Obviously, we have free agency that's going to come up soon, so we'll have stuff to talk about there. We'll talk about the new contracts, trades, everything like that. So if you guys don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you guys have anything that you guys want me to cover, make sure to comment it down below. I'll be happy to cover it. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate whoever has stuck to the end. Means a lot to me. So I'm going to end off this episode, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace out.